Hi there. So, this has been a long time coming, and this video, as you may have noticed, is a little bit different than usual. The reason it's taken so long is because it took a while to get all the footage and edit it all together and slap some commentary on top of it. But the reason this video is different is because I have beaten Delirium, the true final boss of Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus, with all but one character. And oh my god, it took forever. So this episode is going to be me showing off the Delirium boss fights with each of these characters except for one, with some commentary over it, created in post, just talking about the item combination that I had, etc. And each of these is going to be sped up ×2 so that the video is not literally 40 minutes long. Let's jump right into it. First up, we have Maggie. Now, with this run, I got really lucky and had a fast-acting quad shot, which absolutely decimates this guy. With 4 bullets hitting him every time, it's just tons and tons of damage on top of the pinking shears doing even more. Yeah, the homing helps. So, all in all, really powerful combination. That, combined with the fact that I have tons of health since I'm playing as Magdalene, means that this was a very straightforward run. And Delirium was no exception. I learned throughout my many failures trying to beat Delirium that it's best to keep your distance a lot of the time, especially when he does a lot of those giant rings of bullets that you need to slip through the little cracks in. It makes it easier if you just sort of keep your distance and fire from afar. Alright, next up we have Cain. Now this fight's sort of interesting. As you can see, I've got tons and tons of health, so I don't need to worry about getting hit, but the fun begins as soon as I do get hit. Since I have this item, the stopwatch I believe it is, which makes it so that as soon as I take damage, the enemy slows down for the remainder of the room. Also, my battery was running low, so that was an interesting constraint I had to deal with. But yeah, so Delirium is slowed for the rest of this fight, which makes it a lot easier to beat. Even though I'm not dealing as much damage, it's still a pretty easy fight because it's just that much slower. But yeah, that battery thing, part of the reason why this commentary is in post and not live commentary is not only to save time in the long run, but also since a lot of these I would record when I couldn't give commentary, like for example at 2 in the morning when I had 2 sleeping roommates and couldn't really talk at all. So I'd just be playing Isaac, and I figured, you know what, while I'm doing these Delirium runs, I might as well get some footage of it. So that's where this whole thing sort of started, and I think it was a good idea in the long run. I got a ton of Delirium footage, maybe too much, I don't know. But it just results in more to show, and it's why this video is as long as it is. So yeah, Cain. Question mark, otherwise known as Blue Baby. Unfortunately, I had Curse of Darkness on this floor, which isn't helped by the fact that I'm shooting bullets that literally make the room darker, so it's a little dark. Now, Blue Baby isn't the easiest character to play as, considering how he can't have red hearts, but this I easily got around by having that specific item in the top left, which gives me a black heart every time it's used. So I had a ton of health going into this fight, which made it a lot easier than it otherwise would have been. The other thing that made it a lot easier is having that item that lets me shoot those circular laser bullets. Technology X. Tech X is huge and an absolute godsend for this type of fight, considering its huge range, large damage, good fire rate. This isn't the last time we'll see it either, so ultimately what is a challenging character, this fight was made a lot easier just because of the items that I picked up along the way. Alright, Eve. As you can see, I stopped there to turn the music back on. Nice. Now, the biggest part of this build is the nifty double brimstone laser, which is amazing because infinite range and I can stand on the other end of the room and still hit the boss. I've also got the stopwatch, which means as soon as I got hit that first time, everything slows down, which meant this was a lot easier than it could have been. Now, I used to not like playing as Eve a lot, mainly because of her really low damage output on Modified, but Eve has a really nice property where she starts with an item called Whore of Babylon, which means if she gets under one red heart of health, her damage and speed and fire rate and everything all increase and she becomes a lot more powerful. So the solution to that is to spend all of your heart containers on devil deals forever. And that's exactly what I did, which is how I got that brimstone laser. Hooray. From there, getting the... I can't remember the name of that item. The top left one, the one that gives me a black heart every time I use it, meant that I would still have a lot of health even if I didn't have a lot of red hearts. Overall, the combination of a really powerful attack item, plus the slowdown and the amount of health, made this, again, a really easy Delirium fight, just because I'm able to keep my distance, take some damage if I need to, and overall, play it pretty cool. Oh, Sampson, here we go. So, during the course of this run, I managed to get my hands on the D100. When used, the D100 rerolls every single item that you have, which means you can get some crazy combinations just back to back, reloading and reloading into just whatever pops up. And this one is really, really cool. So this is a combination of a bunch of items where somewhere in there is Tiny Planet and the Ludovico technique, and the result is this weird sort of pulsating few blobs that orbits around me, and I can kind of control it with the arrow keys, except it also has this sort of magnetic pull towards me, and I can't get it too far away from me, and it's sort of wiggling around in this set of fixed radii. It was a really, really cool combination, and I'm glad I caught it on video. It made it a little bit of a challenge, actually, to fight Delirium, considering I couldn't attack it from too far away. I had to be within a certain range, so it took a little while, but I eventually managed to pull it off, and this was just a really, really cool, fun time. If you're playing Isaac and you come across the D100, highly recommend. It's a really, really good time, fun for the whole family. For Azazel, I was lucky enough to pick up the Ludovico technique during my run. Normally this character has a pitifully low range, which would have made this Delirium fight really, really difficult. But with this, I can hit him from as far away as I want and stay safely away. This made this fight a lot easier than it otherwise would have been. So, yeah, worked out pretty well. Lazarus is probably my favorite out of all of these. I had the item Plan C, which when used, deals 10,000 damage to all enemies in the room, and then kills you 3 seconds later. Normally, this isn't enough to kill Delirium since you die before his death animation is over, but since Lazarus has an extra life, this means I can use it, come back to life, and kill him in one shot. Easiest boss ever. Eden was, in comparison to these previous runs, pretty normal actually. There were no crazy gimmicks or powerful items that made this boss fight way easier than it should have been. It was just regular old upgrades that made me slightly stronger over time. It helped to have that red patch in the bottom left, which means every time I take damage, I have a chance of increasing my own attack power, which is why it gets up to pretty powerful levels over the course of this fight. But other than that, it's just slowly wearing him down, dodging bullets, and playing Isaac like absolutely normal. A refreshing change of pace, I think. Something to mention is that I also didn't have a lot of health at all going into this fight, so at this point in the fight, I'm actually getting pretty worried that I'm gonna die. This one was definitely not a shoo-in, and I came very close to death, as you'll see. Lilith. So, the first thing you'll notice in this fight is that I have an item, I forget what it's called, but it causes all my active items to do double of what they would have originally done. So, my box of friends, rather than doubling all of my familiars, will triple them. So I have 3 times the attack power than usual, and oh man is it effective. I've also got this thing that makes my bullets look like these cyan diamonds, which is only a thing when you're at full health. So as soon as I take damage, they're going to go away, and my damage will decrease. But I've also got the handy dandy stopwatch that we've seen oh so many times before, so also as soon as I take damage, everything slows down and this Delirium fight becomes so much easier. So again, another difficult boss fight, just made that much less of a challenge by a very powerful item. Again, this wasn't super difficult, but at the same time, it was a lot of fun getting the items to bring me to this point. Apollon. As you've probably seen earlier in the series, this guy has been the source of a lot of trouble for me, just because, while he should be pretty straightforward, I, for whatever reason, find him pretty difficult. But, as you can see, we also have the return of Technology X, which is a huge help here. In terms of health, I'm pretty decent. Like, it could be better, but it's also not the worst. And I also have that sun card in the bottom right, which is going to give me full health as soon as I use it, which is essentially a lifesaver here. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward fight, again, using Technology X to hit him from far away and deal a decent amount of damage at the same time. This is the last character I beat Delirium as where it was relatively straightforward and not crazy hard, as we'll see next. Okay, now's where things get a little ridiculous. The Lost is so difficult to beat Delirium as. This one took me, if not the longest, then maybe the second longest, out of any character to beat, just because the Lost is so hard. You only get 2 hits per room max. Nothing's going to change that. There's no item or power-up you can get that can give you more than 2 hits. And as a result of that, you need to have some incredible ways of avoiding damage, whether that's orbitals or something else. And I tried for so long until one run where I had the Dead Cat, which is an item that gives you 9 lives and an incredible power-up for the Lost. Now, I got to Delirium with a considerable amount of lives remaining, and I died over and over and over again. Until then, I decided, you know what, if I can't beat it the responsible way, the correct, quote-unquote correct way, then I'm gonna beat it the super lame, cheaty way. You see, I had an item called the Gnawed Leaf, which meant that if I stayed completely still without moving or firing, I was completely immune to damage. This, combined with the fact that I had a ball of bandages from beating a horseman earlier, meant that I could deal some tiny bit of damage to Delirium without moving or firing. So, I started the fight, walked into the center of the room, and stayed completely still until Delirium died. This clip is sped up times 10 because it took that long. And I know there's no honor in doing it this way, but god damn it, it worked, and I'm gonna stick by it. So that's how that ended up. And last but definitely not least, we have the Keeper. In my opinion, the Keeper is the most difficult character to play as in this entire game, and god damn, this took forever. Oh my god, I spent so long grinding out Keeper runs over and over, hoping that one would finally be the one, and on this one, I got it. The real reason that I was able to beat this boss at all, after dying on him so many times, is because on the very last floor, during the Void floor, I got the item Head of the Keeper, which means every time my tier hits an enemy, there's a small chance that drops a penny. And that is absolutely vital for staying alive because he uses pennies as health. So, during the fight, whenever I got hit, I was in this weird mode where I was like right on the edge of death, but I had to run really quick to go pick up a coin in order to get back to full health. So, it was difficult. Even though that made it a lot easier, that didn't make this an easy fight in the least bit. I had my reflection, which causes bullets to sort of go around back towards me in this way, which made it a little difficult to hit him from far away, and in retrospect, I definitely shouldn't have picked up that item. But overall, it went really well. And another reason for why that happened is because of my fire rate. Like, goddamn, 7, look at that, amazing. With the triple shot, flawless. Part of what makes Keeper so difficult is because he starts with that triple shot, his fire rate is super low. And that is a significant weakness to this character. There are just so many things that make the Keeper difficult to play as, and especially difficult to beat Delirium as, so I am so happy I was able to do this. This was the last one I did, and actually, it happened while I was editing this video. Like, in between editing sessions, I was finally able to beat the Keeper, and I was so happy because that meant I could include this in the video. But yeah, Keeper was a huge challenge, and I'm really happy I was able to do it in the end. Alright, that is Delirium beaten with every single character in the game except, as you might have noticed, Isaac. So join me next time for the final episode of Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus, where we beat Delirium with Isaac and end this off for good. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.